Greetings, metalheads, and welcome to another edition of the Friday 13th YouTube channel. I hope you're well. So, today you're going to be listening to a live concert review from the Headbangers Open Air Festival in Germany, which started on the 23rd of August of 2025. Now, this was the warm-up show. Now, you guys haven't been to this festival before. You really need to check it out because it's a fantastic festival. Highly recommended for old school metalheads. So, the opening day was the Wednesday on the 23rd, like I said, and we'd have four acts for the warm-up show. We'd open up with a band called Catbreath, followed by Tyranex, Space Chaser, and the last band would be called Blizzard Hunter. So the opening acts would start at 6 o'clock in the evening. This would be Catbreath, a band from Germany. Now, this band is only a four-piece, which features the following members. We'd have Tank on bass, Timo on drums, Philip on vocals, and Nefel on guitars. Now, these guys are a pretty new band on the German metal scene. They've only recorded two singles and one album. So the first one was called Slice 'Em All, which was a single released in 2023. And in the same year, the band released their next single, which was called Plastic Smile, and the full debut album released in 2024 called Slice Them All. Now, this debut album features 11 songs. And if you've not heard it, you want to check it out because they're a cross between hardcore, thrash metal, and crossover music. Now, as I've listened to the album, they kind of come across between Erosion, a German thrash crossover band, Tankard, Assassin, DIR. I guess you could say another two bands that spring to mind when I listen to this band's music is a little bit of Marauder from New York and also the Cro-Mags. Now, I have to say, folks, I've not heard this band before, never even heard of them, but I was really impressed with the set list and the way they performed live. Very energetic, very powerful, very in your face music. The band really performed well and came across very well with the crowd. I have to say they were a fantastic opening act for the warm-up show. Now I have to say the vocalist Philip is a fantastic singer. He's very wild and crazy on stage. Guitars by Nafel are really, really cool. They're really hardcore, really thrashy and crossover. Some great rhythm sections here by Tank on bass and also Timo on drums. All around, they're a really, really good band. And if you really want to check out a really good crossover hardcore thrash album by Catbreath, it's called Kill 'Em All, which is the band's debut. Now, the band did an explosive, powerful set, and the crowd really, really enjoyed them. Really little mosh pit going, so it's a great start to a warm-up show for a fantastic festival. So the band played a 50-minute set, and so the songs for the set list would be All Paws Are Equal, Catbreath, The Black Revenger, The New Claw Order, Slice 'Em All, Ballad of the Spotted Corpse, Feline Fatality, Scum Will Rise Again, Strike of the Claw, Head of the Snake, Blood Spill, Claw Kill. And the last one would be called Kill Yourself, which we all know is a cult classic by the one and only SOD, Stormtroopers of Death from America. Now, with a fantastic opening act, the next band, like I said, was Tyranex from Stockholm in Sweden. Like Catbreath, this is also another four-piece band that are a cross between speed metal and thrash metal, and the signed to a label called GMR Music Group. Now, this band were formed back in 2005, and the band released their debut demo in 2006, followed by two more demos in 2008 and 2009. So with a Blade of the Sacrificer, The Evil Has Arrived, and then it will be followed in 2011 by the band's debut album, Extermination Has Begun, followed by the next album in 2014 called Unable to Tame, Death Roll in 2017, and the new album, which came out in 2023, it's called Reason for the Slaughter. So there's the four albums and three demos the band's released. So now I'm going to tell you who's in the lineup for this band. Linnea Landstedt on guitar and vocals. She's a fantastic singer. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about her later on in this review. We'd also have Pontus Pietersen Gull on drums. We'd have Martin Maskin Pietersen on bass guitar. And we'll also have Will Tomeo on guitar. Now, Linnea is a fantastic guitarist and vocalist. At times, her vocals kind of remind me a little bit of Angela from Arch Enemy, and also Nervosa's vocalist. Now, she can certainly play the guitar. She's a very, very young, talented guitarist and vocalist. And the same could be said for guitarist Will. Now, the rhythm section by Martin and Pontus are also doing a great job. They really came across very, very well. Very powerful. Like I said, they are speed thrash metal. Now, our vocals also remind me a little bit of a band called Detente. Dawn Crosby. Some of you out there may remember the band from the 80s. We did an album called Recognize No Authority, which is a great album. If you've not heard it, check it out. It was released on Road Racer, Road Records back in the 80s. I'm going to have to say I was very impressed with the band's set list. They did some really, really good songs, and the crowd were very much entertained. Playing old school speed thrash metal. And if you are an old school metalhead that really enjoys bands like Assassin, Detente, Tankard, this is a really good band. Even though they are from Sweden, they sound very much German. So now I'm going to tell you what the song titles were that the band performed live. We'd open up with Unable to Tame, Where Light Ceases to Exist, Reason for the Slaughter, Death Roll, Megalomania, Tormentor, Do or Die, Rise from the Dead, Fight Them Back, and the last song would be called Take This Torch, yet another cover, and this was done by the band Razor, great band from Canada back in the day. All in all, a really, really good band to check out, so go and check these guys out. They're called Tyranex. Now, the next band to hit the bill are a German band called Space Chaser. Now, I do know this band because I saw them actually live supporting Onslaught in Essen at the 2 Rock a couple of months ago. These guys are really interested to watch live, and they're very heavy and perform very, very well. Now, these guys were originally formed back in 2011 in Berlin and feature 4 members. Now, the lineup would consist of Matthias, Shire on drums. We'd have Sebastian, Tarlakoski on bass and vocals, and on guitars we'd have Martin, Hospital, and also Leo Scatch. Now, these guys would record their first demo back in 2012, followed by an EP in 2013 entitled Decapitron, and then we'd have the first album in 2014. This was called Watch the Skies. Now, the band have done another EP, followed by a full-length album in 2016, which is the band's second album, called Dead Sun Rising. And the band have recently done an album later on in 2021 called Give Us Life. Now, I've got to say, after listening to the band's debut album, Watch the Skies, the vocalist is absolutely fantastic. It very much reminds me of Bobby Blitz from Overkill. In fact, the music pretty much does remind me of Overkill. Also, a little hint there of Gothic Slam. Another band that springs to mind when listening to the band's debut album would be Urgent Steel. Now, this debut album was released on a label called This Charming Man Records. Now, the more I listen to the band's second album, Dead Sun Rising, the vocals kind of remind me more towards Urgent Steel, John Sirius. And the band's third album, Give Us Life, is released on Metal Blade Records. Fans of Urgent Steel and Overkill, this is a must for you guys. And so we come to the live performance. I have to say that Space Chaser are just as good as they were when I saw them with Onslaught. Very powerful, very heavy, write some really good riffs, very energetic live. All in all, these guys, Space Chaser, are a really good band to see live. So with a head-splitting performance by Space Chaser, the songs played live would be Loaded to the Top, The Hard Headbringer, Threshold, Waves, Anthem, Atomic Crusher, Decapitron, Virus, Skeleton Metal Punks, and also Metro Massacre. So that's the song list that the band played live. Like I said, please do check out this band. They're brilliant live, and the albums really do stand out. So next up would be the headlining band for the warm-up show. This would be a band called Blizzard Hunter. Now, these guys, I have to respect, they've come all the way from Peru, and they're formed back in 2006. Now, these guys are a 5-piece band, and they've released 2 albums. Now, the first demo was released in 2011, followed by an EP called Conqueror of Destiny in 2014. The band's first album was released in 2015, called Heavy Metal to the Vein, released on Pure Underground Records, and the band released their second album in 2022. This was called The Path of Triumph on Int Records. Now, the band's lineup will consist of Lucio Sanchez on guitars. We'd have Tono, the Wild Rocker, Rojos de la Cuba. He would be on the lead guitars. Sebastian Dragon Palmer on vocals and also bass. Alejandro Jaros on drums. So both guitarist and drummer are both brothers. Like I said, this is another band that I've never actually heard of before until watching them live. Listen to the band's first album, Heavy Metal in the Vein. Kind of reminds me a little bit of very early Hellstar, especially the first album by the band, Burning Star, along with Savage Grace. The band have definitely got a little bit elements and vibes of Iron Maiden, a little bit of Judas Priest in there as well. So a lot of new wave of British heavy metal does come through with the band's music. All in all, I was very impressed with the band's music, the performance, the songs in general, and the crowd were really, really behind this band, really raving them on, really encouraging them to play really, really powerful songs. And they really did come across with some fantastic riffs, some great vocals, and as a fast pace, they did extremely well. So a great band to end the night's performance of the warm-up show. So I'm going to tell you now what the songs were that Blizzard Hunter actually played live. So the set list for Blizzard Hunter would be Staying Alive, Ghost Rider, Screaming, My Bloody Anger, Heart of Fire, Lost in My Madness, with Path of Triumph's intro, Final Flash, Conqueror of Destiny, I'm on My Way, and homage to Ozzy with the song Back at the Moon outro as a solo. And then we'd also have a Thor song, Anger, followed by Thackeray of the Rage in Steel. And the last song would be Heavy Metal in My Vein. So that would be the set list for Blizzard Hunter. All in all, a really good band. Like I said, the opening warm-up show, we had some really good bands. That's what I like about this festival. You get some really good opening acts for the warm-up show. So if you're going to go to this festival, please check out the warm-up show as well. Thanks for listening, Metalheads. Enjoy the pictures.